Let's go live on the program now to Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, pick up on some of those issues because we are joined now by Peter Zalmayev. He is the director of the Eurasian Democracy Initiative. Hello to you and thanks for joining us on France
Greetings.
24. How
Greetings.
serious, in your view, were these strikes on Ukraine overnight?
They're serious, but they're no more serious than what we've seen over the past weeks and months. And whatever Putin said in Kazakhstan, obviously, is pure nonsense when he claimed that these attacks were in response and retaliation for Ukraine's use of long-range ATACMS missiles provided by America. Well, what were all these other barrages of missiles, all those attacks with hundreds of ballistic missiles and Shahed drones over the past 2.5 years? Has Putin really needed a pretext for any of this? So it doesn't wash. Obviously, yes, I agree with the colleague in the studio that Vladimir Putin has stepped up its campaign of terrorizing civilian population, which once again has to bring home to our Western allies a very simple message that Vladimir Putin has unleashed. It's not just a war between two armies that he has unleashed. He has been actively waging war, terrorist war against the civilian population of Ukraine, which smacks of some genocidal tactics. And a lot of folks in Ukraine insist that this is a genocide against the Ukrainian people, where we know that genocide is a very loaded term. It's a very technically specific term. I don't want to throw it around, but it's just once again a demonstration that Vladimir Putin will pull out all stops in his absolute obsession to bring Ukraine to its knees. And this is also a word of caution to the incoming Trump administration. If they think that Putin will be happy with some territorial concessions, no, Putin's goal is annihilation of Ukraine as a sovereign state. And so the Trump administration has to decide for itself if Ukraine's sovereignty is an issue larger than just Ukraine, and therefore it deserves of Ukraine's continued support.
What I want to ask you about, though, is the Ukrainian response to these attacks today. Do you think we will see, as a result, more attacks on Russia, potentially with American weaponry, and thus more escalation from Russia? This cycle is going to get worse, isn't it?
The cycle is getting worse, and the message in Ukraine is if you just go and just sort of go through chat rooms, public forums, Facebook, and comments by experts and others. Obviously, the call is to continue to speak the language of strength with Putin. That otherwise, if we were to buckle under this sort of pressure, if the U.S. were to, let's say, withdraw this permission to use long-range ATACMS, this will send a message that might makes right. This is a very bad message. This is a message that will, in the long run, undercut world security. And therefore, let's not underestimate Putin's efforts in that respect. We already have these major YouTube personalities and bloggers in the U.S., such as Joe Rogan, who used the F word to address Ukrainians and President Zelensky. Said, "People, you are leading us into World War III." Some of the members of the Trump team, including his son, his eldest son, and others, have also willingly picked up this Kremlin's line that this is an unacceptable escalation. Well, in my opinion, in the Ukrainians' opinion, the escalation and what's really dangerous is sending Putin a signal that his blackmail works. That is the real danger.
Look, you've spoken quite a bit there about Donald Trump, who's returning to Washington, returning to power in January, the changes you suspect that may well bring. What about, though, from Europe, from European allies? What is it, in your view, that Ukraine needs from them now?
Europe needs to wake up to the reality of Russia's threat. It needs to understand that Russia's war against Ukraine is Russia's war against Europe, against the entire Western world, against the world order, against some basic principles. It needs to step up its production of weapons, including air defense weapons. Putin himself at that press conference boasted that Russia outstrips Europe in its production of weaponry, including missiles, to the tune of 10 times. 10 to the factor of 10 times, 10 times more than what Europe's been able to produce. Coupled with that is Russia's strengthening alliance with North Korea, who's sending tens of thousands of troops to Russia, supplying it with hundreds of weapons, not so precise and not as good as Western made, but still very much damaging and dangerous. So that is the reality that needs to sink in. That there's going to be no negotiation with Putin other through strength. Putin understands no other kind of language.
Peter Zalmayev talking to us there live from Kyiv in Ukraine. Thank you very much.